Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. I'm Domonique Foxworth. That's Charlie Kravitz. And I'm going to set myself up to be made fun of multiple times in this show, I'm sure. Because one of the things that I like to do that you like to make fun of me of is make a theory of everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
It has to be tidy.
It does. It's You want to know what today's theory is?
Of course I do.
Or do you want to just see if you can put it all together? Or should I wait to the end to drop the theory? It's unintentional. When I am preparing for a show, and this show has a number of different sports-related topics.
Yeah, we got a lot of football, free agency news. We'll talk Skubal and the impending, I don't know, lockout in Major League Baseball. We got some basketball. We got everything.
Yeah, a lot of contracts in football, some being signed, some not being signed, the implication for the running backs. And as I'm sitting here going through all this, and then there's like the Aaron Rodgers on McAfee talking about all types of things. Like there's a bunch of things that I'm thinking about.
I have a very brave take on Aaron Rodgers. We'll save it for the end now.
Okay. I'm thinking about all this stuff, and it hit me that, I mean, I guess this is not a revelation, but this was kind of the through line through all of these things, is that being critical isn't being smart. And I think I'm guilty of that also. It's probably the instinct of most of us, is like when something is said, you can agree with it, or something is done, you can agree with it, you can disagree with it. But it feels like in order to come off as smart or feel like you're smart yourself, and again, this is not just projecting criticism. This is also like something I recognize. And this is the same for all of these things that are going to come up today. To me, it feels like we all just like reflex to the criticism because it feels like we are smart and we know better. And I think this is something that is recurring and has gotten out of hand to me when it comes to like talking about contracts, especially in football, because of the hard salary cap. We don't take into account all of the mechanisms in the salary cap that allow these things to make sense. And we also don't take into account that we're not operating in a controlled environment. It's like comparing players' salary and cap hits in isolation feels silly if you don't take into account consideration. So where do you want to start?
I mean, you really took the bite out of this, because can I even go at this theory without the criticism being not?
No. You can present. I can present the criticisms myself. You can present the criticisms as they appear online. I mean, I also could be wrong. I'm currently being critical of people being critical. So I
think it's case by case. It's like if you know, there are times when the masses are right with the criticism. There are times when the smallest voice is right with criticism, or zagging and you're giving praises, right? Like it's so hard to say, because like, particularly in football too, like teams are so unique. The way players function within them are so unique. A good contract can be really beyond just like compared to your peers. It can be how valuable you are to that specific team. It's unique in that compared to baseball and basketball.
And something that comes up a bunch is like, and because football can be so unique, a player or a position's value in a situation can be different. And to the point about like, we're not operating in like a controlled environment. It also like I think right or wrong is probably part of the reason, part of the hang up is we want to be able to say this is good or this is bad. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing when you're in a leadership role and you're making these sorts of decisions is you're making assumptions and you're taking gambles, right? And sometimes those gambles are ones that people would say are good, or sometimes people would say they're bad. But what I think I bristle at is when these decisions are presented as like they're unaware, like the people who are spending 12 hours a day working on this are just like stupid. I think they know the decisions that they're making. Some of them are stupid. I know we're going to get back to this. Some are stupid. I'm certainly not going to defend the suits. Some of them are stupid. But most of the decisions that are coming today, from the Bijan thing.
Oh, yeah. For
right.
Sure.
But I still see the same criticism about running backs. So like the Bijan,
really? So we can start with the Bijan one. Sorry, that's interesting.
Gibbs, Zay Flowers. I guess Zay Flowers is the one that's getting the most criticized. Gibbs hasn't gotten his deal yet, but he's going to, I assume.
That's interesting. There's none of these I haven't seen got crushed online. I think the discussion's different to me, at least what I've seen. on Bijan and Zay Flowers. Again, different algos.
I was going to say that we have a bunch of conversations, most of them not sports related, that remind us that the algos got us pegged differently, and we both think that something different is happening in the world.
Because I see the Bijan Robinson one, and it's the first contract where he's got more guaranteed money than Ezekiel Elliott got in 2019, which was like, I guess, right before the running back market popped in 2020 and then repopped in 2023. And the cap has gone up and the running back market has stayed really flat beyond that. And this is someone who I think most people think is the best running back in football now. And if not the best, maybe the second best, depending on how you view Gibbs or the last gasps of CMC and Derrick Henry when we've been predicting them to fall off for the last 5 years. And whatever. He's an incredibly unique and complete and big complete back. Like, you don't see these guys who are this.
Quick pause. Yeah. I just wanted to, I know you're not going to appreciate this, but everyone watching and listening will appreciate it. The reason why you won't appreciate it is because you've been saying it for many years now. And I've been hearing it, but I haven't internalized it the way that I did a few moments ago when I was looking up the stats for running backs over the last 3 years, because Bijan's contract, or Bijan got drafted 3 years ago. Derrick Henry is an insane anomaly. And I know this, you're looking at me like, duh, I say that every year. But when you actually look at it, so
let's take Derrick Henry time out. We'll go back to Bijan. Absolutely.
Okay. What do you want to say about Derrick Henry? I don't want to steal your thunder because I have stats on Derrick Henry that just blew my mind.
It's like, one, the career he's had. It's a shame he wasn't a starter for the first 2.5 years of his career, or he would end up as the all-time leading rusher in the NFL. If he had gotten those carries, and that's still on the table. He's 5,000 yards away, which, like, I think he can play 5 more years, and he might need 2 years with the Ravens where he has another 1,700 yard season. But in the last 2 years, he has 3,500 yards and 32 touchdowns on 5.5 yards a carry. Like, this is someone who is so big. And like, look, I think it's stylistically too. Like, he doesn't cut like Bijan. Yeah. He's not like explosive the way that Saquon or CMC were, where you're like, oh my God, of course he gets in the open field. No one can catch him. No one can bring him down. But he also has the moments where he looks like a falling skyscraper when he like gets hit behind the line of scrimmage, where he doesn't get up to full speed.
It's not great.
But no, he has been, in a lot of ways, his career is every bit as impressive as Adrian Peterson's. Guys like that, like, I know it's hard to compare him to a Tomlinson or Christian McCaffrey type, but as far as a pure runner of the football, since the Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith era, he is either one or two of the best runners of the football we've seen since, and he does not get the respect of doing that, and he has not slowed down. Like, he is the LeBron of running backs. Like, genuinely.
Right. And when we were a couple of weeks ago, we kind of talked about who's the one athlete you would select to like participate in something. I don't know what it would be. If there was a competition that took over 10 years, Derrick Henry might be the one that I'm choosing, because
sled dragging. He would be unbelievable at
He's 32 years old. And like I mentioned, because of Bijan, I was looking at, since Bijan was drafted, I was looking at the stats. Only one player has played in more games than Bijan Robinson in the last 3 years. It's Derrick Henry. Bijan Robinson is awesome in averaging 0.68 yards over expected in that stretch. Derrick Henry averages 1 yard over expected in that stretch. Like, it's a huge gap between him and everyone else. Like, in that same stretch, in the last 3 years, for a 32-year-old running back who's a power back to be arguably the best back in the league is crazy. So, like, CMC and Saquon and Bijan offer something in the passing game Derrick Henry doesn't.
Yeah.
But at this age, to be this durable and this productive is...
And it's just like, people thought that once we got the tracking data, like the year he had the Liz Frank injury where he played 8 games after he had the 2,000-yard season, people were like, well, he had fewer explosive runs that year. Like, he hadn't reached like the top end speed that he had on next gen stats. It's like, maybe he's going to start falling off. And the answer was nope. He came back from was the exact same.
And we talk about running backs, money going down relative to the salary cap a lot, because we say how dependent they are.
He was the one who was totally agnostic. They're down by 14. Ryan Tannehill is your quarterback. Whatever, just give it to Derrick Henry. We were talking about the Ravens now.
Yeah,
that was the best Ravens team, the one I remember the most. He just killed them. That was Lamar's first MVP season when he was the unanimous MVP. I think it was his second year, and they were the 1 seed. And Tennessee ended up in the conference championship by just running over them.
Yep. All right, Derrick Henry detour is over. Back to Bijan.
Sorry, yeah. I was gonna say, when I've seen this, people are like, Bijan's such a special player. Right. Like, this is, to me, portends that teams. I mean, what have we talked about all offseason? You can tell me what I'm missing here, but because this is an amazing oversimplification, but it feels like every struggling offense, it's like, let's bring in some Ben Johnson DNA. Let's get the quarterback under center a little bit more. Let's run the football, have more motion, and in that, like, the running backs seem to be slightly more in vogue, like respect for them being like impact players, particularly when you get one who's special. And Bijan Robinson, like you had Saquon Barkley saying 2 years ago that he's the best runner, he's the best cutter in the NFL, he's the most elusive guy, and he's a big back.
Yeah, and the numbers support it, and he also is incredible in the passing game. Like, I think he has the most targets of anybody, including Christian McCaffrey, the most receiving yards of anybody. He's run the most routes, passing and rushing. He's broken the most tackles since he entered the career. So, like, he's a special back. And I think there's some things that aren't as easily measured that fall into the category of like impact on the game plan. Like the opponent, his ability to line up multiple different places, like it gives you a level of flexibility and a threat to a defense that I think is worth a lot more than he's getting paid. And you see like the tight ends becoming much more attractive options. I made the case before that I think it's because the receiver market continues to grow at a rate faster than the cap. That market is growing faster and faster. And I think smart coaches are not only looking to create the dilemmas that having multiple tight ends does, they're looking to find market inefficiencies. And it's definitely what you get with certain running backs.
Definitely. And I think that's like, you talk about like criticism being dumb or smart. Like, it was dumb that the league valued Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry like he was Khalif Raymond. Yeah. Like, genuinely, I think that's like...
I remember talking to you on the phone and you losing it on a regular basis. Like, how did they let this happen? Speaking of which, we'll get to the Dodgers. Yeah. How did the rest of the league let this happen? That the Eagles got Saquon and the Ravens got Derrick Henry. And those two teams, you could argue, despite the fact that the Ravens didn't win the Super Bowl, like those two teams, because of a bunch of other things, you could argue that those have been the best two. Like, at their best seasons, those teams were the best when they got those type of difference-making backs.
Yeah, I mean, the 2024 Eagles were one of the best teams of all time.
Right.
But, like, beyond that, like, I mean, I think, like, the running back thing, like, it's so important when we talk about this. Like, you can hold two things in your head at once. Like, oftentimes drafting a running back in the top 10 is not the best allocation of resources because there's a reason why you're in the top 10. I'm saying oftentimes.
No, I know. I'm just saying because we got the Love draft pick just happened. Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals and Ashton Genty to the Raiders are two examples where we feel like it probably wasn't the right decision.
They weren't close. And the Genty one, obviously, like all the stats coming off of his rookie year were like he had more yards after contact than he had yards, et cetera, et cetera. But they passed on Membu, who turned out to be really good. The team was really far away. And, you know, you look at some of the running backs that have gotten extensions off their rookie deals, and these are all really good players when you get to the Zekes, Todd Gurley's, Christian McCaffrey's, et cetera, who have impacts on their team and their offenses being good. But one, it's like, the way I feel, it's way more fickle year to year with the running backs with health. And then two, it's just, they haven't, for the most part, on the team that drafted them, had the drastic effect on winning that you want if you're going to take a guy fourth or third or whoever as like a cornerstone tackle or quarterback or edge rusher, which is like, you can hold that true and then still think that the Bijan contract was like a no doubter. I think the interesting thing about the Bijan thing, which I'd love, is now they've invested all the money in Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts, that, you know, magic trio that they took in the top 7 of the drafts of the skill position players when they're playing fantasy football. The quarterback thing is a big question. They unfortunately had Jalen Walker tear his ACL, and Pierce, it seems like he's going to play this season. But to me, when you sign those second contracts to those skill guys, like the clock is accelerated now, because like now you want to try and start like playing winning football while Bijan Robinson's the best playmaker at his position in the NFL.
It feels like the clock is accelerated, but it doesn't feel like they're that much closer because of the question marks at the quarterback. They brought in Matt Ryan to take over the front office. They got a new coach. Like, it seems like that suggests to me, and then the quarterbacks that they do have suggest to me that they have their eye towards the future. The Bijan contract seems like a no-brainer, so it doesn't really change my mind about them having their eye towards the future. And Bijan could become a trade piece, or maybe they think he's one of these running backs who will be special and durable into the next, and it'll be worth paying into their next quarterback, honestly. Like, I was going to say their next iteration, but they could think that
the next quarterback's likely, there's a good chance it's going to be in 2027.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could be the plan to rebuild this thing, and Bijan could be a part of it, or they could do the Christian McCaffrey with the Panthers and sign him and trade him. So when you have a player that is this good, I think it's kind of a no-brainer that you have to sign him.
What would a running back even go for in a trade at this point?
What would a Bijan go for is the question. Yeah. Would Christian, he didn't even get a first for Christian, right? It was like a second, a third, and a fourth or something like that. It was I don't remember them getting a first for Christian McCaffrey, which you can Google it. But
he went for a 2023 second-round pick, a 2023 third, a fourth, and a 2024 fifth.
Yeah, so much less than he's worth, I would think, than he's been for that team, because he's been the MVP of that team for his time there. So I think Bijan would probably do better than that if he was available anytime soon. But that, I don't know. I think that more than likely they want to keep him. And
I think they do,
and they want to. And I think this is the point that I was making about none of this is in isolation, is you might end up overpaying, but maybe running back is the bad place to talk about that, because if you have a running back who's going to be the engine of your offense, then if you pay him top dollar, you'll still be underpaying for the value that you're getting out of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's making 60% as much as Zay Flowers, and I genuinely when
which is another contract
we should definitely talk Zay.
Yeah,
but just a small thing. In theory, if the Falcons, obviously they have Derrick Henry, so this is ridiculous. If the Falcons called the Ravens and were like, "Hey, we'll swap them 1 for 1," what did both teams like? How's that conversation go?
I mean, that's the Ravens don't let him get off the phone. They make that move. I mean, you have to assume that Derrick Henry is going to get old at some point.
But then, if you know that, then the Bijan contract is not a bad contract.
Yeah. I mean, the Bijan contract is definitely not a bad contract. But yeah, I mean, the Zay one, I think, probably got a lot more criticism and is has more fair criticism. But I think the Bijan and the Zay contract, and honestly, all contracts have to be understood in the context of their entire team. So like Bijan, maybe they will move on to a rookie quarterback pretty soon,
or sign a veteran.
That's
one of the interesting parts about the quarterback. I think there's gonna be a lot of movement on the quarterback market in 2027 with the draft and with some veterans who could be in different spots.
Baker
Mayfield flipping the double bird to Tampa and playing in Atlanta, knowing that he can elevate great skill position players, is like that crossed my mind. Could you not see him crotch chopping down the field in an Atlanta jersey against Tampa?
He'd be so happy to do that. Nothing would thrill him more.
Doing like a cannon celebration in Tampa in a Falcons uniform.
That'd be great. But yeah, so the contracts have to take into account, and I assume that if I were making some of these contracts, if I was offering some of these contracts, I would understand that maybe I have to hit in the draft or find a reasonable substitute at other positions in free agency for cheaper in order to make these contracts make sense. But moving on from an important player, I think never really makes sense. So we can use this to get into the Zay one, because my timeline was definitely filled up with criticism of the Zay Flowers thing, which is like, to me, it seems silly. Like, it seems like a perfectly reasonable deal for a player in a team that's not in a rebuild, that doesn't have, they have Bateman. If he can stay healthy, he's pretty good. But other than that, they've got these two rookie receivers. They got Andrews.
Big guys, too. Yeah, they drafted bigger receivers, which is not
Lane and Surratt, right?
Not necessarily separators, but big contested catch guys.
Yeah, and to me, it seems like the deal is not going to be that punitive. Like, the cap hit's going to be spread over 6 years. Right now, the cap hit's only like $4 million. It's tiny. It hasn't even hit yet. It goes up to 27. And at the point when the cap really starts to climb, the salary cap, or when his cap hit starts to climb, the salary cap would have grown. And so next year, it feels like as a percentage of the cap, it might be at its biggest, and it's going to be like 12th, somewhere from 12th to 15th. As far as cap hit for receivers is. And even if it was too high, to me, it feels like a deal you have to do because, and this might go back to like how I feel about quarterbacks. Sometimes I'm more likely to extend them than not because the alternative is worse. But if you have a team that you think is Super Bowl serious, quibbling over getting the best possible contract for someone who is clearly a number one receiver to me.
Really? In your mind's eye, you look at him and you're like, this is a true number one.
So
I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that in like a no. It's just, I see him with the ball. So and I'm like, this is the most elusive guy I've ever seen with the football. And then I look up and it's like, they don't use him in the red zone. He's never had more than 5 touchdowns in a season. He's always one of these guys around between 1,000 and 1,200 yards. It feels like he has the talent to be a number one receiver, but he has never been that alpha dog Batman receiver that I think of.
I mean, I think the criticism of him can be fair. He's 5'9". Like, that's the biggest criticism of him, and he's not
smaller than Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, he's not super heavy. I get that. The statistical criticism of him is also fair, but like, of their offense, their passing offense, he is the number one receiver. So I think when you say, do you see him as a number one? No, he's not Chase, Jefferson, Puka. There's like elite guys, but I see him. He has been the number one receiver on a top tier offense. And yeah, so he is their number one.
So I was going to say, I went through this. As a fan, the Commanders went through this last year with someone with Terry McLaurin, who I actually think has been, I like him as a player a little bit more.
Terry McLaurin you like Terry a little bit more
than Zay Flowers. Yeah. But like, there was quibbling over money, and that was he came back right before week 1, immediately got hurt. It wasn't one of a million things with the Jaden Daniels injuries and worst defense I've ever seen in my life. That torpedoed the season, but it was a bad vibes thing. So when you talk about like getting it done, being good to your players, like that part's no doubter. What I'm going to say is, when people see, and this is why explaining the cap ramifications of the cap hit and the cap minutia is important, is when people see Zay Flowers for $108 million guaranteed, Jamar Chase for 109.8, and him being paid like, at a level that's similar to Justin Jefferson, and like, who knows what CeeDee Lamb's next deal is going to be, or what Pickens' next deal is going to be, or him getting paid by Olave. That's when people do the double take and look at it, and the cap situation is important. The team situation around it's important. Like, we think we can get to where the Ravens are in this, but also I'm interested to know if they're going to use him differently, if he will get more touches in the red zone, or if in Declan Doyle's offense. Because like, I think you could make a legitimate case that with some Ben Johnson DNA, he could be the Amon-Ra for this offense or the Jameson Williams for this offense. Genuinely.
Right. Which is a useful thing. I think the problem with the Amon-Ra, which like you would assume that the Amon-Ra is the more easy comparison because he's like a smaller, like
so consistent, so tough though.
Yeah, that's the difference. Is like the physicality that Amon-Ra plays with is different than Zay Flowers, and I think also the combination of Amon-Ra's like physicality and blocking ability like makes for some dilemmas for a defense that Zay Flowers, they're going to have to find different ways to create those conflicts with him in the slot. So I think he more naturally suits, if you're going to say one or the other, I think he more naturally fits the Jameson Williams mold, given that this is a Ben Johnson type of offense. But of course, he's so quick. He can do all the Amon-Ra receiving stuff. But I think the underappreciated part about Amon-Ra's value was like he's a really good receiver, but also like really physical and good in the run game. And so like he creates this dilemma for the interior defenders that Zay Flowers might have to in a different way, but he's not going to in that way. So I'm sure he'll do some of both of the responsibilities, but I suspect that Declan Doyle is going to try to use him to create more explosives like Jameson rather than, not that Amon-Ra doesn't have those, but it's different. He's like a chain mover more than anything.
I think it'll be interesting. Like I think I'm going to totally play the result on this contract where if he's like kind of the same, if he's got like 1,089 yards and 4 touchdowns at the end of the year, I'm going to feel like it's ridiculous. It's like, oh, the same. Because I've still never understood this. Like Lamar's never supported a true X. And it might be they've never gotten the right true X for Lamar to be that like 1,500 guy, but it's like through the different iterations of this offense, that guy's never materialized for the Ravens as they've been continued to invest in pass catchers. And so like,
I mean, it's not just Lamar, but it's definitely been, Lamar's been a great quarterback. And normally a great quarterback produces one or a couple of guys like this.
For 2 years, he was basically the most historically efficient passing quarterback of the modern era going into last year. And then was obviously like, this has gotten pointed out ad nauseum as the Mike Sandos QB rankings that for the first 4 weeks of last year, he was between 1 and 3 in every single category as well before he got injured. So like,
efficiency isn't the counting stats, and the counting stats are normally how we determine like if someone is dominant or not. So like the offense has been super efficient, and Lamar's put up pretty big numbers,
enormous numbers.
Right. Yeah. So this is where the point I was making about like we're not in isolation or we're not in some sort of controlled environment is. This is the thing that I know is going to annoy you, and it annoys me to say, but like, what is the alternative at this point? If you're a team that's close,
that doesn't annoy me on this.
Like, I don't see the argument against paying Zay Flowers. One, like I can make the argument in ranking him amongst other receivers because I was making a point that the big number matters much less than with the cap hit. And we don't have the exact cap hit into perpetuity, but we know that they can amortize the cap hit over a 6-year stretch. And at the end of it, it's probably going to jump. That's normally what happens. The cap would have grown by then, and they could give him void years or extend that contract. Like it doesn't seem, even if we were in isolation, I feel like I could defend that move. But then when you look at their specific situation, what else you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, the situation is the thing that makes me feel like I think the Ravens are, when you put their moves together, like this is the team that's the third shortest odds to win the Super Bowl this year. I think that they realize what their window is. And we've talked a lot about how teams are not realistic about who they are. I think the Ravens are. And, you know, we'll see if Lamar is exactly what he was last year or what he was the year before, what he's going to be. But whether it's firing Harbaugh or the failed Crosby trade that turned into the Hendrickson signing or paying Zay Flowers, like just getting it done like he's the number one receiver. I think that they realize that their window is right now and they don't have alternatives. And it's a couple years of that. Like they're operating from knowing that that's the case. And maybe that's like, maybe we'll look up and like Lamar is going to be 37 and the offense is they were going to have gone 14-3 for the 13th time in 14 years with him as their quarterback. But there's also a world where his prime is these next couple of years, and that could be it, where they're really looking at this our Super Bowl window with this core and this guy.
Is there any? I don't want to be guilty of being a hyperbolic, like clickbaity person, but Lamar's cap hit, as everyone knows, is $84 million next year. Mm-hmm. So he has a no trade, a no franchise clause. I'm trying to ask this question in a way that doesn't sound like I'm being like salacious, because like they're put themselves in a position to make a decision, both Lamar and the Ravens at the end of this season, right?
Yeah.
Like he can force his way out.
You can just say it.
I mean, I said it, right?
No, like that is there a world where he's not the quarterback in 2027?
Yeah. Is there a world where where Lamar Jackson is not the quarterback for the Ravens in 2027?
I would be a 9 out of 10 on the stunt if he's not.
Yeah.
Just because, like, we've been through this. This would be the third time we've gone through this with Lamar, and it's always worked out. And he might be the most powerful player in any organization after he just changed a lot of it, and they're going in for him. So I would be really surprised. But look,
the thing is, the reason why I bring that up is because I think that both sides have some ability to make a decision.
100%.
Right.
And also, like, we can be clear about this. If Lamar's not good again this year, they're not going to pay him $84 million next year.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to pay him $84 million next year either way. Like, he's going to get either an extension or I don't know, he's forced to trade or
trade and restructure
or something like that.
But like, if
they're in the small situation where he is not the quarterback.
No, but like, there's a world, like, the Bengals are way better this year. I know some people are buying it, some people are not. And Burrow's talked about this team, but there's a world where, like, the AFC is crazy this year. It's an insane conference of teams that think they can win the Super Bowl.
So the situation that we didn't plan on talking about, but the situation is he plays poorly and they offer him a contract that is not in line with being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he says, and the reasonable thing that anyone else in that position would say is like, I'm a 2-time MVP. I'm up. You pay guys, or other teams pay guys who aren't nearly as good as much because they're up.
And Domonique defends those contracts.
Oh, yes. I still do. I will continue to defend those contracts because, again, I don't think they're bad contracts. But anyway, those are...
No,
that's the scenario.
This is fast. I mean, I genuinely think that this is going to be such a crazy season for this, because just like, I've been doing prep for the season, and you look around it, I think the Patriots got better. Like, genuinely, I'm not saying they won't have the schedule luck, but they improved the receiver room. They conceivably improve the offensive line. Maybe the defense is going to be healthy. The Bills think they're a Super Bowl contender. You go to the North, I think the Bengals and the Ravens think they're Super Bowl contenders. You go to the South, the Texans and Jaguars think they're Super Bowl contenders. You go to the West, the Chargers, Broncos, and now that Mahomes is healthy, and they ended up with Peter Woods, they ended up with Monsieur Delane, they think that they're going to be a contending team again. That's 9. 2 of those teams aren't even going to make the playoffs, and we don't know who's going to be good, who comes out of nowhere. Like, all of which is to say is if Lamar has another okay season, and like, this is going to be like get guffaws. So like, he really was, after his injury, he was banged up last year, not even reminiscent of the Lamar Jackson we knew. Like, it could get really weird there really quickly, because they are in with the Harbaugh stuff, with the replacing Harbaugh, with the Hendrickson stuff, with the Zay Flowers contract, with Lamar. Like, it's now.
Yeah. I think we just talked ourselves into like a great first take topic of which team is under the most pressure this season.
Yeah. I mean, also, like, let's take it to the next first take topic. Lamar Jackson will win a Super Bowl as the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2027.
Jeez, that would be terrifying. Oh, gosh. The NFC side there's a little bit clearer, like, delineation between the championship, the top tier guys and everyone else. But like the Lions are interesting to me just because of the Gibbs decision.
Yeah,
like,
he's holding in right now.
Yeah, he's holding in, and I think he's going to get paid. He should get paid.
Now it's a lot clearer.
Yeah.
Like, him and Bijan are both in their age 24 season this year, and they're Hall of Fame. They're gold jacket running backs.
And Gibbs has had, which you could argue is in his favor, he split time, so his numbers aren't quite as impressive. But you would
both kind of did though with Algier too.
True, that's right. I forgot Tyler Algier was there, but damn, I forgot all about Tyler Algier. Now he's behind another young, talented back out there, and our man Jeremiah.
One of the craziest things of that entire, they re-signed James Conner, they signed Tyler Algier, and then
Jeremiah Love was available.
He was an awesome football player.
Yeah. That's it. Just collect football players.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. There's not as much to talk about now. He will get that money, but he's also a player who I think is going to become more and more important to that offense. But that offense is a little bit more developed and defined and, I guess, replicable than what we've seen of Bijan and the Falcons. So I don't know that there's much to talk about there. The Baker Mayfield, though.
But I thought his quotes were really interesting.
Yeah.
He talked about being disrespected. He also was like incredibly thankful. This is about not getting contracts. He's like, it's all ball now. He also talked about like being incredibly thankful for the Bucs and knowing about the opportunity they gave him. And like they could franchise him next year for $50 million and whatever. But does it seem like he's going to head to free agency? Like we talked about it seems more like that's a real outcome than like when Dak was playing on like the final year of a deal in Dallas types of thing.
I don't know why they do this if guess they have one more year, they could franchise him after this year if they wanted to. But they know what he is. Mm-hmm. And this to me suggests that they don't want him. Right? They don't want him long term. Because a smart decision would be to sign him and extend him as soon as you can, as you'll be less likely to have him later, and obviously the cap ramifications will be a little bit more lenient. I guess it doesn't matter if it just feels weird that it seems like they've put him in a prove it situation. And if you believe in this construct, then you make the run and you pay the quarterback. If you don't believe in it, then I guess you play it out and get ready to blow it up or talk about trades again, which is something that you see a lot less in football than other places, but they could do that. But I'm not sure what the move is right now as we head into this historically deep draft, why they would go all in on a quarterback that they also don't seem like they believe in.
Yeah. I think part of it's timing too. That group, they lost Levante David. They're potentially going to lose Vita Vea. Mike Evans is on the 49ers. Godwin has had a bunch of knee injuries. And it's interesting. They brought Nick Buka last year, who was awesome for the first half of the season. But you assumed he's the Godwin replacement. And ironically, they ended up with him and Godwin for another year of this, where, had they kept Liam Cohen or managed to retain him, this could look a lot differently, where that offense was so explosive and Baker had 40 plus touchdowns the year before. And this is someone like the first 5 games of the season, we were doing MVP candidate stuff because he was just winning ball games, and he had the knee injury and the bicep shoulder injury type thing. He played through it. He's like a good quarterback. And this is someone we've talked, it's been a theme of like the last couple of years of a second draft of pedigreed quarterbacks, whether it's Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, now Kyler Murray. Baker Mayfield was included in that as he bounced around from the Panthers to the Rams to the Bucs, and earlier this offseason is rumored that he could potentially have a reunion in the Rams after Stafford retires. That seems like it's most likely off the table unless they just really think Ty Simpson sucks after a year. They probably already know that, to be honest.
They probably feel pretty confident about what they have one way or the other already. Yeah.
But all this to say is like Baker, even if they might think he's a good enough quarterback, but the timing might just be wrong for where the Bucs are in their life cycle of this group, because it feels like they're at the end of what they were.
Yeah, they seem like of those teams in that always kind of unusual division, I guess, they're probably the team that's like least interesting, I would say. Is like the Saints feel like they're rising.
Boys.
Yeah, I guess you can't say rising with the Saints. That's like a Cardinals thing, right? I mean, not Cardinals thing. That's a Falcons thing, rise up. The Saints feel like they are improving and on the incline, depending on how good Chuck is. Yeah, the Falcons, I don't love the Falcons situation. I don't love the Panthers situation either, but like they ended the season well.
Talked myself into it.
Yeah, they ended the season well. I like their defense. Like I can convince myself that they are more interesting than
like J.C. Horn's a good player. Yeah. Derek Brown's maybe one of the 2 or 3 best 3 techs in the NFL. Bryce Young is an enigma. Go down by 2 scores, he just turns into like Steve Young.
Yeah, they play well against the Rams in the playoffs, which is unfair to do the last thing in your head.
I don't know.
But anyway,
Tedero McMillan's a stud.
Ted is awesome, man.
Stud.
So good. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, and this is where.
By the way, Tet was one of our favorite draft discussions because I remember watching him and I was like, I think this guy's really good. And you're like, you were like, I hate this type of receiver.
Yep.
And then you watched him and you're like, no, he's actually athletic.
Yeah. And it turned out, you were right.
Oh, you were right too. You just said,
the big guys who aren't like special athletes, and I just found that he was a much more special athlete than I assumed because they just look so big and
bendy. He's bendy for a big guy.
Yeah. And that changes. But yeah, he's been awesome. I guess I'm having a hard time creating an argument around this Bucks plan that makes sense. But you could be, I mean, your point, like it could just be all about the timing.
Look, there's a world where there are 3 or 4 former franchise quarterbacks in the market and 7 guys in the first round of the draft plus Sorsby. That's like an unprecedented amount of potential starting quarterbacks. And like we have more good quarterbacks than ever, but there's just a lot of moving pieces in the next year. And I think that's probably a huge part of it. Like Baker could be the best of those guys, by the way, of the second like contract dudes, or sorry, second draft dudes who end up in another situation. Like in a year, if he ends up on a good team that's like ready, where he can elevate the pieces, like we talked about Atlanta, he could be in Minnesota in a year. It's like distinctly possible. All these things, like he could have a tail on this and be a really good player for another, several years, or it could go horribly. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we, before we pivot off football, can we talk Diggs for a second?
Oh, your buddy.
Welcome to Washington.
He's a man. Welcome back. He went to Maryland and he grew up
went to Good Counsel.
Grew up in the area. Welcome back to Washington.
I think it's huge. The vibes have been weird. Brandon Ayuk was stalking the team. He bought a house in Loudoun County, and like, I feel much like, say what you want about Diggs. He elevates young quarterbacks. He still gets open, and I think there's a way better chance that the weird Jaden Daniels mom stuff is around the team less with Diggs.
Like it seemed like Stefon Diggs in New England felt a lot more like an emotional, like intensity leader than we anticipated. Mm-hmm. Which, like, I think that's something that this team could use, because that's not Terry McLaurin, and it also doesn't feel like, as good as Jaden Daniels is, it feels like that's not a role that he plays. And Drake May wasn't that really. I think that's another value that Stefon Diggs brings. Is I mean, I like the signing. I'm not. It's not crazy. It gives him a much better receiving core. It gives Jaden Daniels a great target, especially in man coverage and third downs. Like, he'll be awesome for them. But this team, like, there are other question marks for this team.
I'm actually like
feeling better, feeling confident.
I think this is pretty huge. Actually,
like, seen them Sonny Styles clips.
Yeah. I mean, the defense, the linebacking unit might be the most single improved unit of anything in the NFL, but that's because they were so slow and bad last year in the second level. But like their defense is competent. I mean, so much of this comes down to if Daniels is healthy. If Daniels is healthy, like he's gonna be a good football player for them. But that wide receiver room was so barren. It felt like we were just hoping Antonio Williams was an immediate impact guy. Jalen Lane's a punt returner. Luke McCaffrey. It's like, I don't know. In the modern NFL, going into the season and being like, all right, we're funneling everything through Terry McLaurin. We don't have a real number 2. You have to carry out everything, Jaden. That seemed like a recipe for disaster, where hopefully this raises their floor considerably. Do I think that they're like a contender to win the Super Bowl? Of course not. But like, does it slight notable vibes improvement? Definitely.
We got to do. We're gonna do a vibe show.
Yeah, we're gonna We're gonna draft every NFL team based on vibes.
All right, I think that's important because the vibes matter. Which type of team, and we should look back at like preseason vibes for last year, see if we can project anything based on the vibes around an organization.
Good question on vibes. Good or bad for the vibes? Because I've been a big Chargers vibes guy. That you see Madison Beer just running her fingers through Justin Herbert's hair as they're sitting on the field at Chargers camp.
I saw that. I don't get the argument for that being bad for the vibes.
Just feels so not football.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, am I over?
No, I think so. Like,
because I was very pro, like him getting engaged, all the vibes, all the McDaniel stuff.
I think we just don't see it. Like the family on the field during training camp is something every team does, and you end up having a lot of these. The only reason why this one matters is because like Madison Beers is also a famous person.
More famous than Justin Herbert.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why I think it matters. Like I imagine you could find lots of other on-field PDA for star quarterbacks over there. Yeah, I don't think that matters. I think if anything, it's good for the vibes. I think love, stable relationships, always better for the vibes.
Okay.
Well, not always. You don't want your linebacker, your defensive end, your pass rusher. Need them a little, those positions. I don't mind a little instability.
Yeah.
Like a little, every now and then. I like to have to sign somebody to my roster in order to go
calm
places with him. Like, you know what? You're here. You're going to run down on special teams every now and then. But the real thing is, I know you can keep up with him. I need you there. I need you there with him on all trips. Every time he goes out, I need you there because I need somebody to be like, nah, that's a football. You do that on Sunday. You don't do football right now. This is Friday night. We're at the club. Don't football anybody. Save the football to the next game.
I like that. I mean, this goes back to your theory of like there aren't more crazy people in football. There just might be like a slightly higher percentage.
Oh yeah, there's definitely yeah. I think the numbers are probably pretty similar in most places, but yeah, it's a sorting process. You're more likely to have success in football.
Were you this guy? Were you the calm down guy for your teammates?
I was, yeah, but I didn't hang out with the guys who needed to be calmed down.
Okay.
I didn't drink until after I was done playing. Like, I didn't mess with the drugs or anything. Should have got on some PEDs. That would have been.
We have to do a cycle. It would be so sick.
No, it would be such a waste right now. Should have did it when some money was riding on it.
There was never money riding on it.
I could have recovered so much faster. I could have put on 20 pounds of muscle.
Can you imagine if you would have been a big nickel?
Oh, it'd been incredible. I played nickel. I was a small nickel. I played safety and corner. Small for all those positions. I should have done it back then. I had too much integrity back then, but yeah, the world's different now. I need some PEDs. What was I talking about? Oh, I think that I was always just like a little bit more like,
yeah,
I wasn't any more responsible because like the guys who were like really wild, I ain't go out with them. I didn't want to be there.
There wasn't like, you never got pulled over where like someone was like, Harbaugh was like, sorry, you're gonna have to take the bullet. You're gonna have to go out with them.
Nah. I don't think. Also, because it was never explicitly said to me. Maybe it was explicitly said to other people, but like I was always kind of union guy, so like a little bit antagonistic. So nobody would come ask me for those sort of things. Yeah. But like you would do it because you're friends and you care. Like you go back to college where it's like you're the one. You have to get into a fight sometimes, but also you see when the fight is building and you know which guys, because college, we separated less. We'd all be together. And so you could see something building up and then you have to go over and sort that out. But in the NFL, you get your clique and you click up with people who are more similar to you. And I would go out with guys who was reasonable. Yeah.
That makes sense, actually. I can't imagine you being like, all right, I'm going to make sure so-and-so doesn't be a civilian at Tao in Vegas.
No, I wasn't there with them.
Yeah.
I was never there with the guys who might have a situation.
But did you call regular people civilians, muggles, narps?
Nah, nothing. They existed. I didn't even notice them.
All right, let's do a hard pivot outside of football because we just talked union stuff. Mm-hmm. The sports world collectively, here's one where I think our algorithms are probably the same. Yeah. Everyone just asked, did the Dodgers trading for Skubal break baseball? And I think a lot of people have thought that the Dodgers are are one of the main reasons where there's a potential labor stoppage, a potential lockout where owners want a salary cap. So Skubal's won the last 2 Cy Youngs. I texted an MLB executive about Paul Skeens a year ago, and his response was, Skeens is fine, but when I watch Skubal, I don't understand how he ever gives up a hit. He's added to a Dodgers team that's won the last 2 World Series and has Yamamoto, has Glass now, it has Ohtani, it has Snell, and now it has Skubal in the rotation.
Oh, I don't follow baseball super closely, so this required a good deal of reading for me to appreciate, because like I knew, but
there's 103. His changeup will strike you out on TV.
For me to appreciate how absurd this acquisition is, I did some reading, and I understand that it feels as though their top 4 pitchers are better than the start. Like their top 4 pitchers would have been the starter on just about any other team that they're facing. And that's obviously an insane advantage. I am aware of not falling into like my own priors because this conversation is one about the Dodgers and 2 about the construct of baseball going forward and ultimately about the salary cap. I recognize that my inclination is to make whatever argument is required to avoid saying that a salary cap is good. So I ask you to try to keep me honest on this because this trade alone is obviously a trade, has nothing to do with the salary cap. So like
it's the totality of what the Dodgers.
But yeah, it's a conversation about the totality of the Dodgers. The problem that I'm having is there's nothing that's stopping other teams from trying as hard as the Dodgers are. And I feel like an idiot. It's like no one's mad at the team the Warriors. No one's mad at the Warriors for acquiring KD. They're mad at KD for going to the Warriors.
The whole situation. I had enough anger to go around.
Well, I guess my point is the Warriors were operating in the way that they should have, in the way that every team should have. And the Dodgers are operating in the way...
Every team would take Skubal or take Kevin Durant.
Right. And from what I understand from what the trade was a good enough trade, but it could have been like someone could have topped the trade. It wasn't like an insane trade that was unbeatable, right?
Yes, and which has raised the question I'll ask you is teams think that this was maybe an inside job, or a lot of organizations think this is an inside job because the organizations are sick of the Dodgers and some of them want a cap. Obviously, the players do not, and that's like, we've talked about this at length. You had Bruce Meyer, you had Mike Scherr talk about this, where you don't want to be the generation of players that gives in and has a salary cap in baseball. But it did like... You'd be crazy not to think it was like this was part of it, where one, the Dodgers are 13-15 in their last 28 games. Baseball is so fickle, they might not win the World Series, even though they are the best team. They're plus 150. That's crazy at this point. Like they are the favorite to win the World Series. I'm not taking that away, but it does feel like maybe some teams are like, F it. Like we need a change. Let them have Skubal. This will actually be the precipitating event that leads to real like labor negotiations.
Maybe. I don't think it's going to change anything. But I don't even think that's the most interesting part about this. I guess I have a few questions. Is it good for the Dodgers? I think, of course, it's good for the Dodgers. The thing that I'm willing to entertain that I don't think that most people are considering is that like it might be also good for baseball.
I was wondering, are you more likely to watch this team now? When you say good for baseball, it shouldn't just be watching. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think baseball has lost some of, obviously, its position in the American sports zeitgeist. I think like pitch clock and all those things that they've done to promote to speed up the game has helped. What you need is a main thing. Like this is kind of the episode we did about the MLS. Mm-hmm. It's like you need something that's so big and important that it transcends your game and goes on to like the top of every sports podcast and crosses over into like Good Morning America and mainstream TV. Something that becomes so big and important that it feels like everyone has to watch. It doesn't have to be a juggernaut, but it does seem like, and maybe this is just a coincidence, but through our history in all of the major sports, like it feels like the times where we are most into it is when there's a team that we're like, they're great. And it's what is better is when there's like two teams that are awesome going at it back and forth, because it gives itself a natural story, something that anybody can walk off of, just can flick over having not watched anything and understand the stakes and understand the storyline and understand how it's important. So like the Dodgers, we thought maybe it would be like Shohei Ohtani doing something special with like ignite baseball in the public. It hasn't in that way. It's possible that the Dodgers could turn into that.
I'm fascinated by what this team is to be like. I want to see them in a postseason series and like see how dominant they can be. I do think there's distinctions with that. I think that's an overgeneralization where it just
Well, I mean, I was asking. I guess
the thing about I mean with like dominant teams, like being like this, like as fans, we in general and baseball, you could push back on this significantly, but we like these dominant teams to be organic and be built, and it not feel like a fait accompli where one team just has more resources than the other, and that's why they win. And that's like
watching Skubal cry, and it's like I couldn't help but understand and appreciate how much it has to suck for local teams and the players in this case when like you get attached to like this special player that you guys have acquired and you've watched grow and it just like, nah, he's out of here.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But no, and like I think that's like the pushback could be was, the Yankees and were always the richest team and then they did great stuff. But a lot of their last dynasty was pretty organically built with Bernie Williams and Jeter and Rivera, and of course they signed Clemens, they signed Messina. It's not 100%, but they had some homegrown talent too that were like, they earned their pinstripes as the dorks would say. And the difference with that is like, people loved that first iteration of the Warriors team because it was a homegrown team. It felt like it was distinctly going against the super team era that was built by player movement. And it was cool. It was different.
It was
and then
a surprise too.
Yeah. And then you add someone like Durant to it and it's like, they're going to win. Like that's not even like a criticism. It's like, this is weird. This is professional sports. And it feels like Ohio State playing against the rest of the Big Ten. Like they're going to win.
Yeah.
And so like, that's where I think it's like an interesting line of where it could be good or bad for it, where if this Dodgers team is so dominant where it's like no one even has a chance, and it feels like that in perpetuity because there's not a cap. I don't think that's good for baseball.
No. Yeah, and to be clear, I wasn't making the argument. I was trying to set it up in a way that was like, I'm not sure, but this does seem like something. Because if it's like a perfect parody league, I know most people don't care, aren't tuning in. I think that there might be some other way to like grab everybody. I think last year's World Series
was awesome.
In part because like the Dodgers were awesome and were like they're on the ropes against this team like that. I guess
the couple of Ohtani performances, then what Yamamoto did down in the World Series, ridiculous.
I think the point that I'm making is that I look at all of this stuff as like entertainment in the same way that I would look at a TV show or a movie, and those things follow storylines that are engaging. And you need to have something that's big enough that people understand who's the hero, who's the villain, why this matters, without watching a season long or without being attached to a team. And maybe if every local team is competitive, all the local markets get into it in a way, or they're competitive in cycles that every 3 to 5 years that you get really intense fans growing, and that brings a bigger number. Like I get the argument behind that, but that's just not how we've seen it work in professional sports in America, right? Like the point, what's happened is we have events that are so big that people have to tune in and they have opinions. Like the evil empire of the Yankees was a thing. The Red Sox coming up and breaking their curse was a thing that we all gave a about because it was that.
We need a rival. Like, the Dodgers need a rival.
That's it. That's all. And it should be the Yankees. They got the money.
Or the Giants.
Or the Giants, yeah. And like that was a thing. The home run chase was like a unique thing that was so big.
Again,
the steroid home
we
run
have to
chase.
take steroids. You're just circling around how sick it would be if we got juice to the gills.
We won't be better podcasters.
I would hit dingers.
So we would just do half the episode, some batting practice.
We'd just be like taking soft toss at like a high school field.
There's a guy on TikTok who like has like a pitching machine with like a video screen.
I've seen this.
You've seen it, and he like programs it to like pitch just like the major league guys.
He's trying to hit Mizorowski with like 106 with crazy movement.
It seems pretty fun. I want to get in there and not hit.
I genuinely have not swung a baseball bat in like 17 years. I don't think I would. I think it would take like a couple weeks. I think I'd have to actually practice.
No, you would not hit any of these.
No. Yeah. I just mean like even like swinging, like feeling natural swinging. I think it would take so long.
That's insane. You played tennis every day of your life. You played baseball all the way from a childhood through high school. If I put a bat in your hand, 3 swings, you feel comfortable again.
Not maybe with some extra juice.
You're just trying to find an argument to get some to get roided to the gills, as you would call it.
It would rule.
I don't know. We solved the Derrick Skubal thing. No, we didn't. But I don't know. I think it does. I want to be honest about it. And I think the ultimate thing is, like, I get why it sucks, but I also am not sure that it actually is gonna.
I'm perversely fascinated by it.
Right?
100%.
That's kind of me. It's like I kind of want to see them. Yeah.
I also want people to, like, realize how good he is. I wanted to pitch well. I think he will pitch well down the stretch. Like, I think one of the most famous ones of these is when Milwaukee traded for CeCe Sabathia in his absolute prime, and he just shredded from August to the end of the season. And, you know, Skubal had his debut. We're taping this on Wednesday, on Tuesday night, and he gave up 2 earned in 6 innings, but I think he described it as plenty good. I want to see him pitch really well.
Do you want them to rip through the playoffs?
Yeah.
And
I want to see them have a series where they let up like 4 runs. Like, that's on the table. Quickly before we get out of here, did you see this? We mentioned Durant quickly. Did you see him rationalize the 2016 Warriors move by saying that he was being like, on paper, this is a bigger one of LeBron going to the 76ers? And like, that's one thing. I thought Draymond talking about that was
hilarious,
but also fascinating. I thought that was like one of the more interesting looks in Durant's psyche, where he said, like, Durant is actually Uncle Drew, the character Uncle Drew, where he's like, the game is and always is about getting buckets. So he's going to look at points per game. He's not going to look at like the impact of other players and stuff. And immediately the implication was that was part of him liking Kyrie's game more than Steph's. And we've always known he's like the most pure, like, hooper type of guy. I thought that was a really interesting way talking about Durant that he hasn't really been described that way.
No, that was, I mean, Draymond was on point. Like, I can't disagree with it. Also, didn't Draymond joke that he thought he was on his burner? Every now and then Draymond is on a heater, and he was on a heater in that one. But yeah, I think it's fair. It also, like, what jumped out to me from that was just a reminder that social media can't kill media. Mm-hmm. Is that ultimately someone else telling your story is always going to be better than you telling your story.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that he was right in his assessment.
He's definitely not right. That's definitely not.
But it was made worse by hearing it from him. Yeah. Like, if someone else was making this case, like, it was like, whatever, but it wouldn't have sounded as like.
Well, it's been 10 years. Even I gave up on it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not a quitter. Give him that. He's not a quitter. Yeah, it's tough. It's a bad look. But
honestly, I wasn't even doing it to fry Durant. Like, I just thought the Draymond stuff, I was like, that explains so much. Like, to me, it explains so many of his basketball fascinations, whether it was wanting to play with Booker immediately or the Kyrie thing of, like, the distinct type of player that Kevin Durant values, scoring the basketball. That is like a separating ethos of him from the other best players of his generation, and the way that I think Curry sees basketball differently, the way LeBron sees basketball differently, and the way Durant does. And the journey that he's been on over the back half of his career is not what I would have expected over the last decade whatsoever.
And you can get into the psyche. Maybe that's what you should do. You should get out of media and be like a therapist going forward.
Okay, from the KD thing.
Okay.
I want to close with this. We do my rage bait quarterback rankings every week, which are really tongue in cheek, but like, it's like a, rough ranking. The rankings aren't like that insane. The tiers are ridiculous. Yeah. Mike Sando pulled 35 executives, and their rankings were more rage bait than mine.
I don't know what to do with that, because you're right. None of it enrages me.
This is hilarious.
None of it enrages me anymore. I kind of feel like a when I'm like falling into these places where I'm trying to argue against or for players and comparing them to each other, when it's like, nah. The thing is, Sando has the tiers like you, but that's where they like deny people of certain tiers or put people in other tiers. It's so clearly like feels like the cutoff, because like Lamar's the 5th quarterback.
Yes.
And the choice to not put him, because there are 4 quarterbacks in the top tier.
The 4 quarterbacks are Mahomes. For the first year, he's not the unanimous number 1, but he's still number 1. Josh Allen and Matt Stafford tied at 2. Joe Burrow at 4.
Yeah. And then Lamar's 5th.
In a tier that also includes Trevor Lawrence, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts.
So I could understand saying he's the fifth quarterback with those guys.
Sure.
I don't understand grouping him with the guys that he's grouped with. And then they put him right next to Joe Burrow because it allowed, they didn't do this on purpose because it's just an honest poll of executives, but it just so happens that he happens to be there right next to Joe Burrow, where it feels like the best case could be made to swap those two. Because you're demoting Lamar based on injury-plagued season last year, right? That's his first down season as a result of injury.
They said
that's Burrow's whole career.
One of the, including last year, one of the executives, I believe, said that without his legs, Lamar would be tier 3, and that tier is Bo Nix, Aaron Rodgers, C.J. Stroud, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kirk Cousins. I am honestly, I need to up my game. I was going to say I'm vindicated with the rage bait. I'm not doing this well enough.
Yeah. We should just applaud the rage bait ability of that. They did a good job. We can't get into arguing it.
The only thing I'll say is
an insane thing to do.
When you see a list like this from 50 executives, I do think you have to open your mind's eye that sometimes they just make dumb decisions.
Okay.
As we go full circle on where we started the pod.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you for that. I learned something today. Executives are dumb too. Thank you, Charlie Kravitz. Thanks to all of the great producers, Brian Madigan, Kevin O'Brien, Megan McHale, Cortez, the parakeet, Brian Cortez. That's everybody. Paul Bill, I love you. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.